All right, here we are. We are back. You're back right here on the Gill Connections podcast. Again, you press play. I'm just so humbled, man. I'm just so grateful that you guys would be here because I'm excited. I know I say that every episode, and I've said that for 300 and something episodes, but let me tell you, I am excited. We got to take a step back and remember, I get paid to do this. There's nobody who has a cooler job than this guy right here, and I'm excited to continue to do that job, do it well, and bring you just some really amazing people throughout the country and even throughout the world. And today we're going to go east, kind of southeast. We're going to go to North Carolina. Help me welcome from Winston-Salem State University, the wise, the wonderful Mr. Antonio Wells. Antonio, how are you, my friend?
Good, man. Thank you for having me up, man. I've watched before and seen quite a few of my friends and colleagues, and I'm quite honored to
Oh,
be up here, buddy.
see, when you say that, I always put the person on. I get to put you on the stage and put you on the heat here. So, what's been your favorite one? If you listened to a few of them, what's been your favorite one you've listened to?
My boy Kenny, man, Kenny Anderson at Central Methodist, man.
Hmm.
Just seeing where he's come from, and like we were coaching against each other here in the CIAA as assistant
Yeah,
coaches,
that's right.
and like that's the one that really tied me
Yeah,
in. I was like, all right, okay, Ken, I see you, buddy.
Kitty. That's a great. I love that. That's one of your favorite ones. That's a really interesting component about this podcast because here's the thing that I worry about today in the middle of 2025. We're on episode 300 and something. Is that means there's 300 past guests that are amazing. I mean, from Brooks Johnson, Kenny, Dan Paff, Diljit, Thomas Taylor, Diljit Taylor. Of course, my mind blanks on everyone as soon as I say that. But amazing, 300 amazing people, and I'm worried, like, oh man, I think people like because we still have new subscribers every day, and it's like, oh, I think they're like starting right here with you, and that's awesome. I'm so glad if this is your first time listening to the podcast. I'm so glad you're here. It's amazing. But there are 300 other amazing people, and Kenny is an interesting kind of snapshot of it because when we had him on, he was just beginning there at Central Methodist, and I mean, he's killed it, man. I mean, good
Yes, like
God.
like
Everything he said in that podcast has come true about, his work ethic and the staff and what we're going to do and what we're going to accomplish. I mean, it's neat to kind of like a few because he was pretty early. I bet he's like in the 100. So he's several years ago now.
mhm.
It'd be interesting to go back and listen to that and then go see what he's done these past few years. I mean, it's kind of a neat little snapshot in time when we had him on there. So that's cool.
Yes, sir.
I love that.
Like
Well, we get to create our own snapshot of you today, my friend. And this is, if you've listened to a few episodes, I say this, there's a lot of different guests that I have here. Some are like family to me. I've known them forever. They're like brothers or sisters to me and, love them to death. Others are just brand new, never met them. That happens every once in a while too. And those are so cool. Each one is kind of interesting for me, at least sitting behind the mic here, asking the questions. And then others are kind of a little bit in the middle. And you're a little bit in the middle. Like I know you, but we're not like, we haven't known each other
right,
for
right, right.
years. So I'm excited about this. I know enough to be dangerous about you. That's how I would put it with you. So I'm excited to learn more about you, your background, your journey, and of course, you're head coach of a really good Division II program here at Winston-Salem State. So as we get to that point in your journey, yeah, I got a ton of questions of just how you're doing it, how you're transforming it, what your goals are, what's got you excited. So I'm really I'm pumped to learn more about you and share your journey with our listeners, Antonio.
Good deal. I'm honored, man.
Awesome, man. Awesome. Well, let's do it, man. Let's get in our Wayback Machine here. It's my first question for every single guest that we have here on the show. Assuming you were an athlete, and we have certainly learned that not every great track coach was an athlete back in the day, but assuming you were an athlete, where does it start for you?
Well, it started for me in good old Dublin, Georgia, man. I'm
Oh.
from the country parts of Georgia.
Hmm.
Uh, I actually started running track later in grade school. I was more of a wrestler than anything. Like, honestly, I was a better wrestler than I was a track athlete.
Wow.
I was one of those small kids that wrestled 103, 112. But I started running track my ninth grade year in high school. Didn't start running cross country until 10th grade and just kind of roll with it from there, man. I was a middle distance kid coming out of high school. Not much training at that high school
Hmm.
level. And I knew that I was going to Fort Valley State University
Okay.
in Fort Valley, Georgia.
Mhm.
And like knowing that they didn't have a wrestling program, I
Mm.
was like, I have to do something. I want to
Yeah.
do something. Uh,
Well, let's, I warned you before that we hit record about, you're already in college. I have a million
I
questions
got you.
still
I
in
got
high
you.
school, still in high school. So before we get to Fort Valley State, which is a great school, we used to, when I coached at Troy, we used to go to meets at Fort Valley State, and I love their setup with the big, almost a mountain, but a big rock right there. At least it
Right.
was back then. It was a cool little setup. That might have been my first college meet that I coached at was actually at Fort Valley State. So I love that. So before that, so did you wrestle and run track all the way through
I
high school?
did. So I started wrestling in sixth grade. Like I was little when I
Right.
started wrestling. And like that was my primary thing.
Hmm.
I mean, I took a shot at football and realized real quick, like I'm not the size of these other guys out here.
Right.
I knew that wasn't gonna be my calling.
Sure.
But no, like wrestling, man, that was the I guess catalyst for me and athletics as a
Yeah.
whole. Um, I enjoyed how it was an individual sport and how what I do affects directly what's going on in the
Mm.
competition.
Right, right.
That was one of the things that really drew me to track.
Yeah.
But man, as I wrestled through middle school, my high school coach at the time, he was like, "Yeah, you're definitely gonna have a spot," because I was one of the smaller kids.
Hmm. Hmm.
Like I came into high school probably weighing a good 98 pounds.
Like for real?
Yes, I was small. Like
Wow.
I didn't hit a growth spurt as far as height goes until like maybe 10th grade for real.
Wow. Is that
Yeah.
right?
So I
So,
wrestled 103, 112 my
wow.
first 2 years of high school.
So wrestling's interesting for me. So I grew up in Southeast Alabama,
Mhm.
and like I didn't even think of wrestling as a sport because we didn't have it. No one in our area had it. It was kind of like in my mind, I would have said it would have been a big school type of a sport. So like some of the Birmingham schools had it, Mobile, etc. So I really knew nothing about wrestling outside of WWE, WWF, whatever, right?
Yeah.
But I knew nothing. Maybe I watched the Olympics or something like that. And then I went at a high school. I moved up to Chicago and I started coaching high school track. And wrestling's huge in Chicago and the high school side.
Mhm.
And so the school that I worked at, De La Salle High School, in the Catholic League up there, they had wrestlers. So I see them like it became like, oh, they're part of our athletics. They're athletes. And then I started learning more and more about it because I'd see them like running with garbage bags on. And then I started learning more about, cutting weight and stuff like that.
Oh,
I don't necessarily want to dive into the health aspects or unhealth aspects of wrestling, but I do wonder because I did see them, they ran all the time. I mean,
mhm.
cutting weight, right? So they were running all the time. Is that what drew you to track? You're like, man, I'm already running a crap ton. Like I could actually, that could be an event. I don't have to do it as preparation for an event. It's an event.
So that's exactly what drew me to it. Like I never had to worry about cutting weight.
Sure. Yeah, you probably had the opposite problem actually.
Like yeah, like I never had to worry about cutting weight. So when we did our conditioning, like I was always at the front. Like I'm the
Mm,
smallest kid. These 2 3 mile runs, 30 minute, 40 minute runs, like it was nothing to me. I was like, this is what I do. This is fun. I'll be back first for the team. And like at that point, got to high school, my art teacher was actually our cross country and like she helped with track. And she was like, you need to go out there and run track. Like if you're not doing anything else, running at least a mile, like that helps.
right.
And I just so happened to get out there and enjoy it.
In wrestling season, if I remember right, it's kind of like basketball season. It's kind of that
Yep.
winter. Yeah. Okay. So cross and track season would be kind of open for you. They were just normally training times for you. Those were actually open for you to be in a sport during that time.
Yep. And it worked out. Like
Yeah.
because like I said, I didn't run cross country my first year in high school.
Right.
I was new to it. I
Mhm.
mean, walking down the halls, weighing 103 at if that, just kind of in my own zone. I was like,
Sure.
yeah, I'm a wrestle. And after that first year of wrestling, my wrestling coach and my art teacher who was track coach at the time, like they were like, yeah, you
Hmm.
should be running track.
Yeah.
Like if you're not gonna do anything during the springtime, during the fall time, like these are things that's gonna help you.
Hmm.
And like they really did. Like it was nobody else running distance. It was nobody else running
Mm,
mid distance. So
right.
the training was a little kind of spaced out. Like I would
Sure.
just go on runs. Like
Yeah.
I was like, okay, this is what I do for training. I'll go for a nice little long run, run to the railroad tracks and come back, and that would be my
Ah,
day.
Georgia.
Like, like it was nothing like,
No structure.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
So
Yeah.
now that I really sit back and think about it, like I don't recall any interval training,
Now,
any.
now some people could thrive in that situation. It sounds like you thrive. Like, okay, and maybe, you're high school, you're 14, 18 years old,
Yeah,
you can be excused for not knowing that there actually was structure for distance running and things like that. Others would not like that. Like they would, and typically young people, they won't necessarily tell you this, but they do crave structure. And you did
right.
have some structure, right? You had hey, practice starts at X time and meets are these days. So there's, some structure there. Uh, but that didn't turn you off. That wasn't like you didn't have a coach telling you necessarily what to do on a daily basis, intervals, etc. It was more like, all right, go run for 30 minutes. You seem to be okay with that.
Yeah, like we were in the rural parts of Georgia. Like,
Hmm.
granted, we had the third largest county in the state of Georgia, but it was still country, like very
Hmm.
rural. So I didn't expect us to have just that type of
Hmm.
structure when it came to track and field. Like we had some great athletes, by all means. Like I
Hmm.
remember competing with like Lee Curry. Like my man was an amazing long jumper, amazing sprinter, and he actually went on to college. And I honestly didn't know at the time like that he went on to college and did really well
Hmm.
in track and field until like I'm well into coaching and look back and talk with him a little bit. I was like, oh, okay. And like we just didn't have that
Yeah.
real push.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
if
Yeah.
anybody were to come recruit us from that area during that time, like it would be like truly picking up on kids that didn't know that were really untapped in
Right.
track. Like we were just athletes at the time. We just did it.
Now, you mentioned kind of some of the similarities between wrestling and track in regards to like it's a very individual sport in the sense of you got to win your weight class, you got to win your event, but there is a team score at the end of the day. Unlike like a football where I played football, where I could have had a great game as an offensive lineman, but if the receiver and quarterback weren't in sync, it didn't matter that we still lost, right? So,
Yeah.
so I get that. Why not like I'm trying to think of other like real like where distance and endurance is a big asset. Why not like a soccer or anything like that?
So we didn't have soccer.
Ah,
Like it was basketball, baseball,
hmm.
cross country, track,
Yeah. Okay.
basically.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Um, and my size alone, like
Hmm.
I'm not out there balling, I'm
Yeah,
not
yeah,
shooting,
yeah.
like, and like I enjoy the fact that I can be in a sport, and it really just came down to what I can do.
Hmm.
And like, granted, yes, it goes with talent to a certain extent,
Yeah.
but I don't have to be tall. I don't have to be big.
Right.
Like as long as I'm getting the work in and I'm able to do everything within my means, like I can still be competitive.
Yeah, there's things within your control. You
Yeah,
can't control how high you are or how tall you are, or even necessarily how much you weigh. In regards to like, you couldn't have said, "Well, I want to
right.
be 180" and snap your fingers. Like, well,
Yeah.
that wasn't happening, right? Yeah, that makes sense. So, as you go along in your high school career, you do both sports. You already gave us kind of a spoiler alert. You go to Fort Valley State, and you said, "Well, they didn't have wrestling, and I wanted to do something." Talk to us about the college selection, like, was it very in depth and, I went to five different schools or I looked at five different schools, or was it like, I need to go school somewhere and I could afford that one? Tell us about that transition of how you picked which school to go to college wise.
So I already knew I was going to Fort Valley from early,
Oh.
just because it was a family thing. Like
Oh.
quite a bit of my family went to Fort Valley State. And if not Fort Valley State, it was Savannah State or Morris Brown College at the time. Like
Hmm.
Morris Brown had their issues right as I was in high school. So
Hmm.
I didn't even look their way. But I was in a summer program, I want to say after my junior year in high school. It was a summer biology program, STEM program, at Fort Valley, and just kind of getting in and learning the ins and outs of Fort Valley and how it works and
Hmm.
just the lay of the land. I already knew that's where I was going to go.
Right, right, right.
And as far as track and field goes, I was like, I'm gonna give it a shot.
Hmm.
Like I remember after my senior year of high school, I sent an email because I'm pretty sure it was Coach Tyree Price at the time,
Yeah,
which is one of my
that's
mentors, one of
awesome.
my guys.
Great
Like,
dude. Love him. Such a good
like
dude.
I remember emailing him, and I can't even recall if I got an email back, but I know once I got to campus, me and a couple of guys in my freshman class at the time, we were like, yeah, we want to try track and field. And we got in touch with Coach Price, and it was like, that was it. We
Huh.
were there. And at a HBCU, smaller HBCU, black kid that runs distance willingly.
Yeah, sure, sure, sure. Yeah,
At that time,
yeah, yeah,
like he was like, "Yeah, for sure, come on."
yeah, yeah. What were you thinking as a 18-ish year old kid for like I want to be an astronaut, a business owner? What were you thinking about majoring in? What were you thinking like I want to become something?
I wanted to be a pediatrician.
Really?
Yeah,
Why is
like
that?
so. I don't know. Just I guess it was me being so small as a kid.
Hmm.
Like I really wanted to make sure the younger people, the smaller
Yeah.
people were taken care of.
Oh
Not
man.
that I really didn't realize how much chemistry went
Yeah.
into that.
Sure, sure, sure.
Like, cause I learned the hard way. Organic chemistry is not your friend. Like
That has changed a lot of people's majors.
like that changed a lot. But I went in pre-med and it
Yeah.
eventually became biology.
Okay.
Um, like because of organic chemistry and
Hmm.
chemistry, I had an
Right.
extra semester, extra 2 semesters, and I took summer school and
Hmm.
um, fall semester and graduated in 2010
Yeah.
because I came in 2005.
Hmm.
So yeah, had I had some true guidance outside of my coaches at the time, like I probably would have steered towards plant science.
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah, because Fort Valley was a big agricultural school.
yeah, that's right.
The electives that I took from botany to entomology, like those were great for me. I just didn't put it in my mind to
Huh.
I might need to switch to plant science.
Yeah.
Like, but either way, I finished up with my bachelor's in biology.
Well, I love that you had your initial thought of being a pediatrician.
Mhm.
I talk to, track coaches every day of my life. And there's certainly, maybe no bigger fan of the people who choose to be coaches than this guy right here. And I still will tell every coach, I'm like, so you got into this, you could have been doing so much more. And I'm not, again, I'm not taking away what you do as a coach. The positive impact you make
Right.
on young people is amazing. But I think about things like that. I'm like, man, Antonio, you could have been Dr. Well, you could have been a pediatrician. And I'm going to go out on a limb and say someone who focuses on children and children's medicine, that's a little bit more impactful than having a kid run the mile faster.
Right.
And again, I'm not belittling that because again, I'm
No,
not
no, no, you're
big,
right.
but it's like I just see so many really smart guys and gals like you that I'm like, you chose to coach track and you could have cured cancer. So I love that. I love that. Uh, so tell me about your college experience. I love that Tyreek was there. One of the, if you're not, if you're listening to this show actually, and you don't know about Tyree, he has, he coaches, so he gets a grace with his consistency, but he has done a very similar show interviewing coaches, typically through YouTube. And he does an amazing job. Like my goal here as the host of the Gill Connections podcast is to interview every coach in the country, right? But I only get to do this 52 times a year, so as you can imagine, I always joke, it's like Pokemon, I'm trying to catch them all, but I won't. I won't, my whole lifetime, I will not be able to get every coach on the program. So when other people are doing interview styles like this with track coaches, I always bless and encourage, and how do we do more? And so every time I see Tyree, I just saw him this weekend. I think we're probably listening to this in July, but back in May and June, I was at the NCAA West and I saw him and I was like, you got to do more. You got to do more. And, he's like, Mike, I got a coach, right? And it's like, I get it. But if you go to YouTube and just search his name, it'll bring up his past interviews that he's had. And he's had amazing individuals, different ones than I had. Again, there's so many amazing men and women who choose to be track coaches. So I just encourage you to go check out Tyreek's interviews. I can't remember. He calls it something like gold medal.
I want to say
Should search
something
right
of champions.
yeah, that's right.
And it's bad because I was actually one of the coaches he interviewed.
Oh, yeah, perfect. Of course. Yeah. I'm going to do we're going to do a live search here on, while we're doing this podcast, and we're going to look up YouTube and see what pops up. I'm not sure I get internet in here, but I know if you search his name, it'll pop up. Yeah, for some reason, YouTube's not popping up anything for me. Anyway, go to YouTube, check him out. Yeah, it's something of champions. Yeah. You're right. Or if you're on his Facebook, you post a lot of them there. But go check out his interviews. He does a great job. And Antonio was there. So what you can do is after you listen to this episode, you can go back and listen to his Tyree Price episode and see, did he change his story at all? That's always fun. Like, yeah, is he consistent? I bet he is. So tell me about your experience in college with Tyreek, and you had some other coaches there as well. How was that? Did you ever miss wrestling, and how did track go for you?
So it was an adjustment, trying to adjust to having that amount of free time as a country kid, just being where I was. But I love my college experience, and I credit that to not only like Coach Price and setting the tone, because I actually had 3 different coaches at Fort Valley, but not only Coach Price and the team, but my friends. Like, that was probably the most impactful thing about my college experience. My friends, who some ran track, some didn't, but we all from a moral and just goal level, like we gelled together. And like it's I tell people all the time, like, I wouldn't change my college experience for anything. Do I wish I knew more? Of course. But I know that was where I needed to be at that point in time in life. Those friends are my brothers. Like, these are people that I confide in and talk with to this day. And that alone was what made my experience as a student at Fort Valley State like truly what it was. The school, rich history, rich love from alumni. I'm a diehard Wildcat, nice. Fort Valley State Wildcat, and it's amazing just to see a lot of the Wildcats that are out in different places, different things. I actually had a young lady who competes for an opposing team whose mother is a Wildcat. So every time we see each other, what's up, Wildcat? But that was a big thing there.
Nice.
As far as my track experience at Fort Valley, it was eye-opening. Like I said, coming from high school, didn't have structure. And what do you mean?
Got a little bit more structure this time now.
Like, what do you mean, Coach Price? What do you mean I have to do 16 200s? What is this? What you mean?
Yeah.
Like, it was something to get used to.
So how did you, because that's a pretty big adjustment. You're used to, I'm not going to take anything away from your high school coach, but you're used to maybe go for a 30-minute run and we'll see you tomorrow, whatever. Now it's like, hey, well, we start at 3, and after you do this one, by the way, we're going to tell you what your warm up is, and now you're going to do 16 by 200, that we want you to hit this mark. That's like a 180 on the structure side. How did you handle that?
I mean, I just got in and did what I needed to do. Like I said, I was a walk-on kid, and there was a international student at the time.
Mm,
That Coach Price was like, "Hey man, when you beat him, then we can talk about
hmm.
it." And I remember the day that I did beat him. It was actually in a time trial 3K, or it was something like that.
Wow.
I was like, "Hey man, what's up?" But
Yeah.
no, no, no. Like it brought a competitive spirit out of me
Hmm.
that like I thought I had, but it's a little different now as a college student, college athlete, and understanding the ins and outs of a little bit more travel, seeing that we are at the
Hmm.
college level, that we do go to different meets and states to compete, like
Hmm.
just seeing the level of dedication, the level of like that I have to put into the sport. Like it was a huge adjustment.
Hmm.
But it was something that I enjoyed. It became quite a bit of who I was on campus. They was like,
Hmm.
"Oh, okay, you're the skinny guy that was running through campus, no shirt on." Yeah, that's me. Like I, I would I would be that person that was running through campus, running around campus, and that was really what people knew me for
Hmm.
during college. But it was a great experience. And like I said, I had three different coaches. So
Yeah.
after Coach Price left, because as a matter of fact, Coach Coop was his assistant coach when I was there.
Dude,
So
another great guy. Holy.
Donald Cooper,
Yeah.
that's
Wow.
my guy. But after Coach Price left and Coach Coop left, uh, Coach Marlo Mincy. She
Mm.
was one of the Georgia Southern greats. She's
Mm.
a twin. She came in and she kind of gave me a gut check on what I was doing because she gave me a little bit more structure than even Coach Price
Mm.
gave me when it came to training. Uh, I felt myself making a shift and getting noticeably faster, like under her. And after Coach Mincy left, it
Mm.
was Elakeisha O'Kelly, formerly Elakeisha Williamson.
Mm.
Uh, she came in and became the head coach at that time, and her husband are the ones that really took me under their wing because I was done with my eligibility in that last semester that I was in school, and they really kind of pulled me into coaching at that
Mm.
time.
So talk to us about having a different coach every year. We've had that in the past. And in fact, we just talked about this here just recently, where, from the outside looking in, when you hear a story like that, most people will be like, oh, well, that kind of sucks. Because, as coaches, we believe in consistency, right? Consistency matters and things like that. So, if you're getting a new coach every year, there's some lack of consistency. They're not all going to there could be some real radical differences in how they thought about things and trained, and then there could be some consensus, some similarities there. But from the outside, we would say, oh, maybe not that great of experience. Now you're expressing the exact opposite of what a great experience overall. But we had one coach, I think it was David Self, if I remember correct. Now at Sam Houston State, doing a great job there. And he had a similar thing. And I said the same thing, like, oh, that kind of stinks. Do you wish you could have had the same coach, all 4 years? And he goes, I probably, would have said yes to that. He goes, but I got to see four different people and how they coach. And for a guy who, spoiler alert, became a track coach, it's like I got to learn, oh, I like what she did. Oh, I like what he did, and kind of amalgamated it. Cheating here a little bit going into the future. Do you now see where maybe that was actually for a guy who ends up going to become a track coach? Was that ended up being a positive, or would you have traded it all for like, hey man, I wish I had just had the same coach for all 4 years?
So I don't look back and say, "Oh, I wish that would have changed." Like outside of me wishing I knew more, especially learning what I have as a coach, like yeah, sure. But when it comes to that particular thing, it just shows I chose Fort Valley for Fort Valley,
Mm.
not the program, not the track and field program. So either way, I knew I was going to be okay. I enjoyed my experience at that school.
Right.
Um,
Good
and
point.
from the coaching perspective, like, yes, I took from all of them.
Hmm.
And I see how, like, a lot of the better athletes kind of struggle with transition from coach
Mhm.
to coach,
Mhm.
whereas I was just like happy to be there. I was enjoying my time regardless, and like it shows where stability is a big thing when it comes
Mhm.
to coaching a lot of these younger kids, these new generations. Like it's major, and that's one thing that I've really taken with me, just trying to create a space of stability and just routine in a sense for progress.
You said something twice now. It caught my ear the first time you said it, and now when you say it again, it's a little bit like when a teacher says, "Hey, if you hear the same thing more than once, it's probably going to be on the test, right?" So I'm kind of getting this like maybe I should ask this question. You've now said twice that I wish I would have known more, I believe is how you put it. I'm maybe paraphrasing a little bit, and you're kind of alluding towards the coaching side of it. What do you mean? Let's dig in there a little bit. What do you mean by that?
So, not to discredit any of my coaches, but none of them were distance coaches. None of them ran
Sure,
distance races.
sure.
So, it was things that like I just straight up missed out on, like
Mm,
from the amount of mileage that I should have been doing, from
got it.
the amount of just volume that I needed at the
Hmm.
time. Like
Hmm.
it's it was evident,
Yeah.
and like these are things that like I take with me. I mean, I'm not super crazy on doing a lot of miles because there's more than one way to skin a cat, and
Hmm.
unless you're running those distances, unless you're like truly running a 10K 5K from a competition standpoint, like it's a lot of ways to
Hmm.
get that volume in.
Hmm.
And just looking at who I was and just
Hmm.
how much I wanted to get better and be in that space,
Yeah.
it,
That
it
that
was a lot more that I could have done.
that makes a lot of sense. And I bet if we asked all four of those coaches, um, I know two well, Cooper and Tyree. I bet they would say, he's right. I wasn't a distance coach. I was doing the best I could, and but you're right. That was not my forte at all, right? Um, and so it's interesting to hear that because you look at some program. I've advised some programs where when they're getting facilities and stuff, and we talk about there's all the different event groups. Well, it means there's different equipment for each event group, and I'll talk to them. I'll be like, so what do you plan on emphasizing in your program? Like, what do you think you are going to do or not do? What are you going to hire or not hire for your staff? And so someone will be like, well, we're brand new program, so we're not going to hire a throws coach. We just we're going to focus on distance and sprints first. And I'm like, okay. Then you're not going to hire a throws coach. That's cool. So maybe you don't need the best of the best hammer cage or whatever, yada, yada. But are you going to go recruit throwers? Well, yeah, because we need to have numbers. I'm like, oh, you hear yourself. Like, we got to be careful with that. And not that, again, you mentioned you're a walk on. So, there's maybe and distance seems to, I don't know. I just caught myself. I want to say distance seems different because I can just send you off on runs. I know. I literally just caught myself and I was like, well, that's still not fair necessarily for the student athlete and student athlete experience. So I get that. And I think you're expressing it correctly when you're saying, hey, I'm not shading my coaches. I feel
Yeah.
like you didn't say this, but I feel like the sentiment is, hey, they did the best they could. However, under a distance coach, maybe things would have looked a little bit different for me.
And to go even further, like they were very young at the time.
Right.
Like Fort Valley was one of those stopping points for coaches that like they were young.
Right.
Like I'm looking back and really seeing how close in age like me and Coach Price and
Hmm.
me and Coach Mincy, like they were young.
Right.
They were very young. And it I always say coaches, like track coaches especially, like we coach movement.
Hmm.
So it's a lot of things that goes into play from throws, jumps, sprints, distance. Like we coach movement. And being in a program like Fort Valley State, where you might be working by yourself with 30 kids, it's important to just kind of have a knowledge and confidence in
Hmm.
saying like you coach movement. Like this is how we get faster. And they definitely jumped in head first with that.
Yeah.
So it
Yeah.
wasn't anything where I doubted them at the time, because I know we run into it a lot of times now
Hmm.
where kids like, oh, such and such is doing this. This is what we should be doing.
Hmm.
But at that point in time, I'm like, yeah, I'll do whatever you say, coach. It
Yeah.
is what it's like. That's what I took from them being there in that space. Like I trusted them as my coaches.
And I have to do full disclosure here because I coached junior college track for 1 year. It's one of the greatest years of my life, actually, in my coaching career. And I did not do what I just talked about because I'm having flashbacks of coaching a indoor weight thrower, not a throws guy at all. I probably look like one today, but did not know how to coach throws at all. And I remember I didn't recruit him actually. He was a teammate of a quarter miler that was like, "Hey man, my guy would like to come too." And it's like, "Sure, I don't know how to coach it. We'll be figuring out on our own." And I remember looking back how I tried to coach him in the weight throw, and then how weight throw is actually done. I was like, "Oh my God, what was I doing?" Kept it safe at least. At least I think I did. But
Right.
so I made those same mistakes. I get where you're coming from. Okay, as you're going through Fort Valley State, I'm not hearing you started kind of getting into it here in your that fifth year where you had run out of eligibility, but I'm not necessarily hearing like, oh, and then because of all these coaches and they were cool, so I was like, maybe I want to be like them. I want to be a track. I'm not hearing you necessarily like wanting to become a track coach up to maybe this point in this fifth year. Is that fair?
Yeah, like that's really what it was. Like as an athlete, I wasn't thinking about that. I was
Yeah.
still trying to chase this pediatrician dream.
It's organic chemistry nightmare.
Like I'm stressing over organic chemistry every day. And like, yeah, I wasn't thinking about the coaching aspect of
Yeah.
it.
Okay.
And like I said, Coach O'Kelly, her and her husband, like when I say they really brought me in
Yeah.
because they knew that I was pretty much done with eligibility, and like I had a true love for track and field.
Hmm.
Like I wasn't one of those kids that just worried about his event, didn't think to learn or look or like really take in what everybody else is doing. Like I was locked in on every event, like as a student athlete. Like I would really have good relationships with our throwers, jumpers, and sprinters. Like I was one of those wide-eyed,
Hmm.
fascinated people. And as I got done with eligibility, Coach O'Kelly, like she really pulled me in. She was like, Wells, like I think you have a just genuine love for the sport,
Hmm.
and like just really trying to show me like how much I love the sport at the time. And I mean, I was like, yeah, I'm not competing. So yeah, I'll be out here learning, like paying attention to everything that they do. And they did a great job of really putting me in position to be a coach, even though I was still of their age on the team. Like some
Hmm.
of these are my teammates, and like they really helped me draw that line between coach and student athlete,
Hmm.
and really just pay attention to how it goes when it comes to training, how it goes when it comes to facilitating, and just motivating at this level.
Hmm.
So
So, what kind of activities did you do? Because, I love I have this vision of you going and watching your long jumper. Like, it wasn't just, I did my mile and all right, what time's the bus? What time's the 4x4? So we get out of here. So I can kind of, I can vision that. I got, this video playing. But then when you go into you're an undergraduate coach, kind of a volunteer coach or whatever, however you want to term it. I don't see you because we just had this discussion. I can't see you going to the shot putters and saying, "Okay, I'm gonna run the drills for you guys with you guys today," or going to the high jumpers and do it. What kind of activities did they have you start out doing?
So of course, distance. Like I was working with the cross country middle distance kids at the time. Well, teammates at the time. And it was more so just getting me to understand the training cycles. Like this is the time that we should
Mm-hmm.
be doing this. This is the time that we should be doing that. This is something that we always have to keep some type of focus on from a speed power
Right.
perspective. And it was really just bringing me into the basics of training
Hmm.
athletes. Because I mean, yes, I was working directly with the distance kids, but I was there for everything from
Hmm.
hurdle work because Coach O'Kelly, like she was a hurdler. Like that was her baby. And her husband was a middle distance 800 runner. So they just kind of spread that knowledge out and like having another person to kind of help out uh around the way. Like that was what they did for me. And they did it with a couple of other
Yeah,
students in my
I was gonna say, how did you feel about that? Uh, because not everybody got asked to help. I'm
yeah,
assuming, but they chose you.
like and that's what really pushed me into like seeing myself as a coach. Like
Hmm.
it was a struggle to kind of draw that line, especially as I'm in undergrad
Sure.
and a lot of times well, Wells, you were just out here partying with us. Like what's
Hmm. I've said this a hundred
what gives?
times. And usually it's in the context of a undergrad who goes on to become a GA at the same school. And I'm like,
Yep.
because so I'm like, oh, spring semester ends. You were boys playing Xbox on Friday nights, and then fall comes, and now you're Coach Wells. Like that
Yeah.
transition doesn't just happen. Like what do you mean? Like you said, we were just hanging out. Now you got a whistle like this. That's why I think GAs should not be allowed to be at the same school. And this undergraduate coaching is a little touchy
Yeah.
too. Yeah, yeah. So
And
go ahead. Go ahead.
I was about to say, like, it was something that kind of opened my eyes to on how my teammates saw me.
Mm.
Like they respected me enough and
Yeah, it's both
gave
sides. That's right. Hmm.
like they gave me grace in being
Hmm.
in that position. Like they
Hmm.
trusted me to help. They trusted me to be a person that they can come to from a I
Hmm.
standpoint, coaching
Hmm.
standpoint, and
Hmm.
like they really helped me make that transition. So
Yeah.
I don't say it's all me on
Yeah.
the
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, no.
Yeah.
That's but
What
they helped.
what Coach O'Kelly, O'Kelly, right? I want to make sure I'm saying it
Yes.
right. What Coach O'Kelly demonstrated there, it's one of the things that, I believe the real superpower of a coach, like, there's so many things that coaches do and that you do that are amazing. If I were just to kind of like sum it up in one like cute little statement here is, the superpower of a coach is you have the ability to see something in someone else before they can see it in themselves. Right. So,
Mhm.
you've had plenty of kids that you've seen, you're like, oh man, you're a miler. I know you think you're a 5K kid. No, you're a miler. Or hey, you think you're a sprinter. You're a hurdler, and they go on and become great hurdlers and
Mhm.
milers and whatnot. And what Coach O'Kelly did there was she saw you and said, "Hey, I know you can't see this yet, but you're a coach. Like you
Yeah.
need to I got to find out a way for you to see that in yourself. And so I'm going to have you go work with this group and go do this and go pay attention over here. Did they, her and her husband, did they give you any I'm gonna call it homework? And what I mean by that is, were there any like, hey, you need to go read this book, or hey, go watch this video from this code, anything like that at this point?
She would always tell me to pay attention to a lot of the meets that we went to. Like she
Mm.
was very adamant about and she was very intentional about us seeing where we're going because like she ran at University of South Carolina.
Hmm.
So she made sure that we knew the history of a lot of the coaches that we were going to
Oh,
run at their tracks and
wow.
like knowing who Coach Fry was
Yeah.
well before he would even know who I was or name
Right.
and like just being a student of the sport.
So she had a lot of respect for other coaches too,
Oh
like
yeah.
the profession of coaching. Yeah.
Yes. Yes, yes.
Wow, that's so cool. I love that. Okay, so you're in that fifth year, finishing out your degree. You get a degree in biology, I believe you
Yes.
said. That's crazy. That's a tough degree. You don't have to be a pre-med organic chemistry guy to still. That's a tough major. I took biology 101, and that was like the only class I had to actually study for. That's how hard bio 101 was for me. And that was just 101 for crying out loud. What do you do next? When you get your degree, are you committed like, oh yeah, I'm going to become a coach, or are you still kind of open a little bit?
So I was pretty much locked into coaching at that point,
Okay.
but I stuck around for another year and a half
Okay.
because I left Fort Valley after spring of 2012.
Okay. So you
And
stayed on as a volunteer?
yeah, so like I got a stipend that
Okay.
last year. Like
Okay. I was gonna say, so what do you do for money? I'm always
exactly.
I dislike volunteer coaches, not the coaches, uh, because I'm like, no, you should get paid. Like I don't like this, and I can't. I just I'm so against and tired of hearing, well, I don't do it for the money. You need to
Yeah.
do it for the money. I'm sorry. You need to support your family and your passions and your charity. So stop saying that, coaches. I'm sorry. You're
Yeah.
trying to be very altruistic, and I get it. Uh, and I'm not, I'm about to say that the world makes the money makes the world go around. I'm not saying do it all for the money. I'm saying you deserve the money. Football coaches deserve the money. Baseball coaches, track coaches, you deserve to get paid what you're worth. So stop saying I'm tired of hearing that. So what do you do? You're maybe getting a little stipend, but I mean, how do you still got to survive? There's still rent. There's still food.
So I was working part-time, which was almost full-time at Bass Pro Shops.
Is that
I
right?
was I was
Really?
working in the hunting section. I was selling firearms at Bass Pro Shops.
Were
So
you? So is that a background? I've not heard you saying I have a love for hunting or anything. Or
so I actually worked at a summer camp as well. Like I went to a summer camp in high school and I ended up working like some summers as a college student. The FFA, LCCCLA.
okay.
I put too many C's, but LCCLA
You're used to USTF, CCCCA, just had a lot of C's. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
camp in Georgia. It was in Covington,
Wow.
Georgia.
Oh, yeah.
And that kind of opened me up to the whole
Huh.
outdoorsy, just like the camping and that type thing. And
So a
I ended up getting a
biology
job.
major from Fort Valley State is working at Bass Pro Shop. You seem like you might be a little overeducated for this position, sir. Okay. So you're doing that.
Yeah, and it was fun. Like again, Bass Pro Shops, they don't necessarily look and see, oh, this HBCU student over here telling me about this particular firearm that I'm looking for. Like it was fun and it kind of took care of what it needed to, but that was short lived. Like I
Hmm.
worked at Bass Pro Shops and the summer camp through that time of 2012. And yeah, like I enjoyed that time. It was a growing and learning experience.
Yeah.
But I did get a opportunity to be a logistics manager for a small grocery distribution company in
Okay.
Atlanta.
So what's
Uh,
that? What's that mean?
I pretty much set up the routes, go look for new stores to put our product in,
Oh, wow.
and make sure our product got delivered and was efficiently delivered week in, week out. Uh,
Now that seems like a tough job.
it was different. I remember waking up at 3 a.m. just to be at work at 4.
Wow.
Um, we would do a lot of traveling from Georgia to Alabama up into
Mm,
Tennessee over to South Carolina and back to Georgia. Like that
mm,
was a weekly thing. Like I was driving quite a bit. Um,
wow.
and in that time, I felt myself really just missing track, missing that space. And I ended up volunteering at Clayton State
Oh,
University because I
yeah.
was living near Clayton at
Hmm.
the time. Uh, my guy, Clive Caesar, he
Hmm.
was coaching at the time, assistant coach there. And I backtrack. So
Hmm.
at Fort Valley State, we had a couple of national champions in the space in my time frame of being a student there. While I was still running Lindsay Daly, like she was one of those crazy, beastly hurdlers at the time. And Antoinette Oglesby, AO, she was a very dominant triple jumper at the time. Like she was a 3-time national champ, I believe.
Jeez.
Yeah, so that was my eyes into jumping. So Coach O'Kelly made sure that I was there for every little bit of that,
Hmm.
from nationals to her training day in, day out. Like that was a space that interested me quite a bit
Hmm.
outside of distance.
Hmm.
And I worked a lot with AO, and like she gave me quite a bit of insight as to what it is that they need as student athletes.
Hmm.
And now, fast forward to Clayton State, there was a triple jumper that my guy, Coach Caesar, had that I was there to just kind of add in and help with him. And she went on to do really well. I want to say she was an indoor and outdoor All American in triple jump. Uh,
Dude.
but I've made time for it. I found time for it. I found energy for
Right.
it. Waking up at 3 and going till probably about 4 or 5 in the evening.
Hmm.
Atlanta traffic, like it was it was something that I made time for. So during those couple years that I was there, I made sure I tapped in with that.
You clearly had a passion for it because, again, you don't wake up at 3 in the morning to work another job so you can go volunteer at this other job.
Right.
It's that's the kind of stuff we talk about like with charities, right? Like, oh yeah, I work my job, but then at night I go and do the food bank or whatnot. And you go and you do coaching track and field, right? So there's clearly a passion there. As you're going through those couple of years, Bass Pro Shop and then the logistics with the food company. Not that those were necessarily like jobs that you would want to do a career in,
Right.
but you're working very hard. You're like I love how you put that. I could see it in your face when you said that you found the time and you found the energy. That probably was the
Yeah.
bigger the hard thing to get over is like, man, I could easily just go home, man. I'm tired. I got to get up again at 3 a.m., etc. Was there at any point during this time that you were like, you know what? I thought coaching was supposed to be my thing, but maybe I'm supposed to go do something. I mean, you got to freaking buy. You got to like. I got a public relations degree, buddy. You got a real degree. You got a biology degree. Was there ever any time during this time span where you're like, maybe I need to go figure out how to put my degree in action?
So, and that's what actually brought me back to coaching.
Mm.
Like I was like I needed to go to more school. Like I needed another degree to add on to a
Oh,
biology
right.
degree.
Mm.
Like it is plenty of things that's dealing with biology, but it's so specialized now. Like nobody's just looking for a biology degree.
Got it. Makes sense.
It's the step stool to get into the specialized masters,
Got it.
which brings me to Kentucky State University,
Hmm.
where my girl Fatima Shabazz, she was
Yeah.
coaching at the time.
Hmm.
Coach Von Smith, he was the head coach at the time. Like they gave me the opportunity to come up and be a grad assistant. Granted, Kentucky State really didn't have anything from a master's standpoint that would tie in with a bachelor's in biology.
Right.
So I just this isn't good to say, but I definitely jumped into a grad program really like with no intention of like this is what I want to do.
Yeah, same, dude. When I went to go to Troy and I was going to be a coach. That was my whole thing. I'm going to be a coach, and
Yes.
I knew I wasn't smart enough to get a biology degree. So I was like, all right, I don't necessarily need what you would say a stereotypical degree to become a coach, biology, kinese, all those kind of things, right? I was like, I just need a degree. I'll need a degree to get a college job. And so I literally went down the list of the majors. And I was like, oh, okay, easy. I'm trying to find the easiest one. I got the PE. I was like, well, okay, I can become a PE teacher, right? And then I got the public relations, and I was like, oh, wait a minute, public relations. I was like, come on. That's literally how I picked my degree, bud. So there's no shame in that at
Yeah.
all. Yeah, not at all.
Yeah, man. But Fatima Shabazz, she reached out to me in July of 2014.
Mhm.
And like at that point, like I was really at the end, like at my wits' end with working that logistics
Yeah,
job.
something's got to change. Hmm.
And like when she reached out to me, I was like, all right, I'm gonna figure it out. Like, let's
Hmm.
do this. I'm gonna do what I got to be in Frankfort, Kentucky in
Hmm.
August. And sure enough, like she was amazing. Coach Smith, they were amazing about making me feel welcome and like really getting me in that space. Experienced my lowest rent for a one bedroom apartment in all of my life, and I know we'll never experience that again. Like 350 for a furnished bedroom, one bedroom apartment, and I mean,
Sharing with 10 other people, right?
no, like
Dude.
it was a legit one bedroom
Holy.
apartment, and it was close to downtown Frankfurt. Like that was one of the things that just kind of, this ain't so bad.
Yeah. So
And
first of
yeah,
all, I have to give a shout out Fatima Shabazz, Gill Connections podcast alum. So if you're interested in her story, go listen to her episode here on the podcast. So what I'm trying to put myself in Fatima and Vaughn's shoes here of like, okay, we've invited this guy to come become a GA for us. So he was a distance runner, but he's got some jumps experience. Like what do they bring you in to do? Like I don't know. It almost feels like you could get lost. You know what I'm saying? What do you
so
actually do there?
Fatima, she was like, she competed like right as I finished competing.
Mm,
So she saw me helping Coach O'Kelly quite a
mm,
bit.
mm-hmm,
And she was like, yeah, we just need another person,
mm,
because she was handling throws at the time. She was working with long distance cross country, and Coach Smith was working with sprints, hurdles, jumps. And at that point, they definitely knew I wanted to be in coaching, and I was willing to be wherever was needed.
mm-hmm.
As I came up, the team was like, all right, we're gonna team up with distance, and like she'll let me have middle distance. And Coach Smith was like, whatever with jumps, like, let's make it work. And we definitely made it work.
Yeah.
Like that was probably the funnest time as a coach
Really?
because of the people. Like the
Yeah.
people really made it what it was at Frankfurt,
Mm-hmm,
Kentucky.
mm-hmm.
Um, the coaching staff for the other sports were pretty young as well. So like we had a nice little community
That's
amongst
cool.
ourselves, and
That's
we
big.
made it fun.
Yeah.
Um, and I was actually coaching my guy, Kyron Broussard. He was a national qualifier in the 800, and like that was the highlight of my time from a coaching perspective there.
Hmm.
But we we had fun together. I'll say that.
Yeah. Any, we talk a lot about coaching education on this podcast, mainly because I'm a huge advocate of coaching
Mhm.
education. And I think of coaching education in two forms. One is formal, so like USATF, USTF, CCA,
Mhm.
Altus, and one informal, meaning peer to peer and
Mhm.
mentors and things like that. And you mentioned some, peers and mentors that you've reached out. Were you doing any form, like as you're going through this grad program there at Kentucky State, any formal coaching education, any USATF level one or anything at this point?
So I actually did USATF level one while I was at Fort Valley State.
Okay.
Coach O'Kelly, she was like, "Yeah, just go ahead. Like, it's a good thing to kind of just get the basics."
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
And I did it, and like
Where
that was cool.
where'd you do you remember where the school was?
We did it in Atlanta. I don't
Mhm.
remember exactly where, but
Do
I
you remember
know
any teachers that you had?
Lauren Seagrave.
Lauren was my level one as well.
Yeah, like
He's so good.
that was my initial jump into coaching education.
Hmm.
Like I really didn't look that way because of, I guess, how we were coaching. Like
Mm.
I was looking, because we had to cover so much,
Hmm.
and
Hmm.
I really just used my circle, used the people
Hmm.
around me. But I will say, at Kentucky State, that was my first time going to the USTF CCCA coaching convention.
Oh yeah.
And that really opened my eyes to like, oh, it's a lot of people that's out here giving out knowledge.
Ah.
So that first year that I was there, we went, and I want to say it was I think it was Phoenix,
Hmm.
Phoenix, Arizona. Um, but I found myself just really submerged in just all of these coaches giving out knowledge, things that would help me directly in the events that I'm working on.
Do you remember a specific topic or person that kind of like when I first got into coaching, I was coaching hurdles and I went to a clinic down at Indiana University. And the presenter, Marshall Goss, now retired, former
Mhm.
head coach in Indiana, talked about hurdles and, beginning hurdle coaching. And I remember like, it was like, you've read in the Bible, maybe, scales fall off your eyes. It was like, oh, I've been coaching with a bag over my head. Like I've been blind. And now I get like it made so much, even though it was obviously very radical to how I was coaching. I was coaching extremely incorrectly, by the way. But it changed my life. Like it was like, oh, there's an actual like way to coach. There's actual mechanics to how you coach, right? Do you remember whether it was a speaker or a topic that like almost kind of blew your mind? Like, oh my goodness, this makes so much sense. Anything like that?
I'm gonna say no,
Okay.
but I will say one thing that like really opened my eyes was I think because he the young guy's an Olympian. Is it Akron, the coach at Akron who had the 800 runner? What's his face?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. If you wouldn't have said that, I know exactly his name. I can see his face.
Yes.
Great dude. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But sitting in, listening to his symposium,
Mm-hmm.
like it gave validation to what Coach O'Kelly
Mm-hmm.
had put me on track for. Just
Mm-hmm.
seeing the amount of work, this is when we should do these are the type of workouts that we should
Mm-hmm.
be doing here.
Mm-hmm.
It gave a sense of like, okay,
I think that is so important. Most of the times, and the way I phrase that question, we think about that coach and education way side. The way I said it is like, oh, I had no clue, and then I saw this, I was like, oh my god. But there is maybe equally positivity when you're like, I'm just not, I know I'm doing it or I was taught this way, but I'm not sure. And so there's a lack of confidence. And, you're not coaching to your full strength if you're coaching out of lack of confidence. And so there is something about that strength of like, oh, wait a minute, this guy or gal has done it many times. And wait a minute, they're doing what I'm doing. Now, maybe there's some small tweaks in there, but it's like, oh, wait a minute, that's what oh, it's almost like relief, right? It's like, oh,
right.
okay.
Right.
For me, I'd be like, I'm not an idiot. Okay, cool, cool, cool. So I think that's equally important to have that validation. So now that you could coach more confidently
Yes.
outwardly. Mm.
And during that time, like that's when I was coaching the young man Kyron Broussard. And for him, like that was the first training program from fall through the spring where I coached somebody that went to the national level or getting past conference for a national level. And like Bruce, Kyron, he was a pivotal athlete for me as a coach. Like, again, we're not too far in age, like, but he's trusting me to help out with
Mhm.
what he's got going on. And just seeing how he was able to get up there, run his 149 at the time, which would make it the nationals, not anymore. But
I was about to say, not anymore. That's what's crazy. Yeah,
at the time,
crazy.
and like, yeah, like I was, it was a sense of validation, like hearing that symposium
Yeah,
and like just seeing a lot of the things that
I love that.
Coach O'Kelly put me on track to watch out for,
Yeah,
pay attention to, gauge this, make sure it fits the athlete
yeah.
for this. And like that was a big like, okay, I'm 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 where I'm supposed to be.
We get on themes through the podcast where it'll go through several episodes, where we'll talk about different things. I think that might be a theme that we explore here for our next couple of episodes with different people of coaching from confidence. And if,
Yeah.
and by the way, it takes a lot of humility to be able to say things like, well, I wasn't really sure and think so. Appreciate your, authenticity and truthfulness here. But if we can admit to ourselves, like, sometimes, or maybe right now, I'm not that confident. 18 to 22-year-olds in the college side here, they're not dumb. They can sense those things, right?
Yeah.
So you're maybe not able to convey all that you're trying to convey when you're almost hesitant. You're second guessing yourself. There's some confidence parts of actually coaching as well. So I love that.
Big
I love
time.
that for you. Yeah, that's so cool. So what did you end up getting your master's in there at Kentucky State?
So I actually didn't finish.
Oh, is
So
that right? You're a grad dropout. I love
so
it.
that first year, because I was there for 2 years, that
Yeah.
first year, um, I was a grad assistant, a
Hmm.
GA. And then that next year, they found a way for them to pay me.
Oh,
So I was like,
dude, get out of here. That's not dropout. That's smart.
oh.
Good for you.
So yeah, like I was working as a
And I'm
assistant coach that second year.
and I'm sure rolling in it.
Yeah, like I was enjoying that
Let me
experience.
say it a different way. And I'm sure just making tons of money.
Yeah, no.
Yeah, okay,
But
that's what I meant. When you're like, yeah, and I was like, wait a
I
minute.
mean, with 350 rent, like
Oh, yeah, that's a good point.
yeah.
No, that's a good point. That's a good point. Good point.
I can live in Frankfort,
It's
Kentucky.
very great. That's not a bad place, actually. I've been there a few times. That's a good point. So you get picked up as first of all, I truly believe, and we all here at Gill believe, healthy things grow, so that the program was able to hire full time
Yeah.
another coach. I love that. Great for Kentucky State, man. Holy cow, that's great for our sport. It's great for those athletes, and great for you as well. So I love hearing that.
And then like there was a bit of transition. Coach Von Smith was out my second year, and that's when they brought in Olympian Tori Edwards.
Mm-hmm.
And she added another level of just insight
Mm-hmm.
and perspective as a world-class athlete
Mm-hmm.
coming into this small school. And she helped with my confidence a lot too, because she was like, yeah, well, it's like, you know what you're doing, go ahead, you're good.
Mm-hmm.
Like she helped a lot with like just really standing on what I've been doing.
Mm-hmm.
And um yeah, like that was a fun time as well.
Yeah. What's that like? So I got to, in my job here, I'm so lucky. I meet amazing athlete. It's so cool sometimes, when a gold medalist, it's like, oh, Mike. And I'm like, oh, how do you know who in the world I am? Well, earlier this week, I was in Round Rock, Texas for the Texas High School AD convention.
Mm-hmm.
And literally in the last hour, like we're going to pack up here in the next hour. So the convention's over, right? This young lady comes up and she's like, "Oh, we love Gill. Where I'm at, we choose all Gill." Blah blah blah. I was like, "Oh man, that's so cool. Thank you." And I look at her name tag, and you might be too young for this. Let's see. We'll do a little test here. Her name tag says Christy Gaines.
It sounds very familiar. Let me.
No, no, no Googling. I'll tell you. I'll spoil it. So I go, "Are you the Christy Gaines?" And she goes, "Yeah, I am." So Christy was you probably can't count the number of times All-Americans at Stanford, and then
Mm,
goes on to win the gold medal and many golds and silvers and world champs and Olympics and 4x1s and such. I mean, she was one of the fastest Americans ever. May still be I meant to look it up, maybe still in the top 10, if not top 10, top 20 women. 1086 was her PR.
gotcha.
Yeah,
Oh,
exactly. Right, right. She
yeah.
just said that. It's like, oh, I looked at my teammate on the basketball side was with me, and so he doesn't really know track. And I go, dude, she ran faster than a lot of actually fast guys.
Right.
Like there's some fast guys that would not have beaten her. It's like she was legit. Uh, so it's always kind of cool when someone at that level, and Tori Edwards, I mean, you're talking about that level. What did you take away from your time with her? Like, she has an experience that none of us are ever going to, say, I always talk about in our sport, we get to meet a lot. You've met lots of Olympians, right? But there's still this many Olympians in the world, right? I mean, it's just no one makes the Olympic team.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? What was it? What did you learn from her experiences being on her staff? Was there I don't even want to put words in it. Just was there anything extra? It's like, oh, you know what? And this is not dissing other people, but I didn't get this from those guys or gals before.
No, no,
She
no.
brought
Like,
this level or something.
so she really instilled in us that like everybody deserves a level of coaching, a level of care, a level of just attention
Hmm.
in order to get to where they're trying to go. Like she knows how hard she worked to get to where she was.
Hmm.
And for her to, I'm not even gonna say downsize it, but bring it to the level of these student athletes that
Yeah,
probably won't ever run as fast as she has
sure.
run, but like she made sure that everybody saw it for what it was. Like this is track and field. Like we are here to get faster. Like in
Right.
everybody's progress is different.
Huh.
So you don't steer anybody away in that space.
Yeah. That's amazing because you know a little bit of stereotype, but as someone who's such an elite athlete, I could have seen her come in and say, "Hey, we don't have time
Yeah.
to mess with the bottom third here, guys. Like we need to take the guys and gals that are fast now and make them faster. We can only really work with elites or whatever, blah blah." And been like, "Oh, you know, she's an elite, so I guess I can understand her experience, you know." But it sounds like the opposite of like, "Oh, no, no, we everybody needs a positive experience here."
Like, and this is what like we have to do at this school. Like Kentucky State, they've had their troubles as an institution, but
Hmm.
from the athletics standpoint, it brought more structure for me coming from Fort Valley. Um,
Mm.
like Fatima, she helped out a lot when it came to like, oh yeah, this is what we do to cover this. This is the fundraising we do for this.
Hmm.
This is how we get this handled so we can travel here.
Wow.
So a lot from the administrative side was a bit more structured than Fort Valley. Um, and like bringing Tori in, like she just kind of was icing on the cake because I was only there for a year during her time.
Hmm. Hmm.
And like she again, it was validation in
Yeah.
what I was doing, what like started at Fort Valley State.
Did you ever at practice, like, you know, you guys are kind of near the end and, you know, maybe just milling around. Did you ever look at him like, hey, man, let's race. I think I can beat you.
Coach Edwards Tori, no, never. Like even if she wasn't in her tip top shape, I'm not that person. Like, man, my student athletes now, Coach Wells, you need to get up and do. I'm like, first off, I've seen two popped Achilles. Like,
I
no,
love it. I
no
love it.
offense to anybody that's out there with, but I've seen quite a fair share of injuries
Oh,
from.
yeah. When I see on Twitter when they talk about these coaches 4x1s, I'm like, you guys and gals, you got to quit that. That's in the past. Quit living in the past, man. You better live in the present.
And even if you do, you have to go through the same warm up that you put in your team.
I saw some
Like,
tweet the other day
yeah.
about like a reminder to coaches, like, hey, if you're going to demonstrate for your athletes, you also need to warm. Like, don't forget that. That's like you warm your kids up for a reason. So therefore, you also, if you're going to do something athletic, need to be warmed up.
Like during that time frame, though, I will say
Oh.
um, that first year that I was at Kentucky, after that, like spring season, a couple of the athletes they were like, okay, Wells, you getting a little big, man. And I took that to heart. I
Uh,
will say from May 2013 throughout my time at Kentucky State, like I was really, really working out, eating. Like I said, I was gonna have a six pack by the time y'all come back in the fall, and I meant that.
now
Uh,
that would be a different definition between you and I there, by the way, in that sentence. Now you're a distance background. You haven't gone crazy. You haven't done a marathon yet, have you?
oh no, I have
Okay,
no
all right.
desire to.
That's my judgment of like how insane someone is. It's like, yeah, you know, I was doing 5K, so I decided to do a marathon. I'm like, bro, get out of here, man. That's crazy.
Yeah, like
Okay.
I will say undergrad kind of scarred me with that because as an undergrad at Fort Valley State, at our conference championships. I ran the 1500 prelim final, steeplechase, 5K, 10K,
Oh
all in the
man.
same weekend. I'm like, I'm okay, y'all.
Mm.
I don't need to do
Here's
that.
the sad part. A marathon is still like 10 times that much. That's what's
Exactly.
so
So
crazy.
yeah,
Crazy,
I have
crazy.
no desire.
You mentioned you were there for a year under Coach Tori Edwards. Where did we go
Yep.
next and why?
So uh Coach Price, he actually hit me up. He was like, "Yeah, man, my guy at Morgan State has a assistant coach position open and interviewed for the position in August of 2014 and September 1, September 5, I guess. I was in Baltimore, Maryland, assistant coach at Morgan State University.
With Neville Hodge, yeah?
Yes,
Legacy, legend.
yeah, big time. Like I didn't realize how much of a legacy until I got there and
Mhm.
like really was in it. I was like, oh my goodness.
So I'm noticing a trend, and I was wondering where you went next and see if the trend continued, and it does. And I've had many Richie Bean, Lamont Vaughn,
Mhm.
um, oh gosh, there are a couple more escaping me. Great coaches from the HBCU level. Pierce, Hampton's coach. Uh, so I have a lot of respect and admiration for the HBCUs. Your HBCU all the way. Is this
Yes.
conscious or unconscious? You know what I mean when I say that? Like, you're conscious of all decisions, but like, are you purposely
So
attracted and attractive to HBCUs, or is it just the way it's worked so far?
so I went to a HBCU because I wanted to go for to a HBCU for the
Hmm.
history behind it, for
Hmm. Hmm.
the foundation of it.
Hmm.
Um, and naturally, like I'm around more of the HBCU schools from
Hmm.
a coaching standpoint, and they've pulled me in quite a few directions. So
Hmm.
being at Fort Valley State as a student athlete, my coaches at the time, so Coach Price, he went on to South Carolina State.
Hmm. Hmm.
Coach Coop went on to Savannah State, later
But then,
South Carolina State, and
hmm.
Bethune-Cookman.
Hmm.
Like I have a genuine love for our HBCUs, and it really became that trend as I love Kentucky State. Like going to Morgan State, I didn't know how much history was behind the institution, behind track and field at the school at the time.
Right.
I was just excited for a new job, a full time job,
Hmm.
benefits at a D1 school.
Hmm. Hmm.
And like it took me really getting there to dive into like, okay, Wells, this is your third HBCU. Like this is quite a bit of a trend,
Hmm. Hmm.
but I've loved it from top to bottom, man.
Do you think so? High school coaches get lumped together and they're told like, hey, you can't coach college. These are big swaths. Obviously, there are high school coaches that go on to coach college, and there's college coaches who hire high school coaches. But overall, they have a stigmatism that they can't coach college because they don't know how to recruit, or
Right.
that's usually the biggest one. And then there's a couple little minor things. Is there a stigma to, I don't know this actually. I'm not
Yeah, yeah.
normally my questions are leading because I already know the answer kind of, but I actually don't know this. Is there a stigmatism of HBCU coaches? Like, you know what I mean? Does that make sense when I say that? Like,
Mhm.
because I think of some of the guys now that I'm thinking about, like you mentioned Cooper, and I was like, oh yeah, South Carolina State, and then Bethune, and I'm thinking about Coach G. Now back at FAMU, and
Bethune.
I met him
Yeah.
when he was at Bethune, and I'm wondering, is there a stigmatism against HBCU coaches in the college track world?
I can't speak for what other people see as far as HBCU coaches,
Yeah,
but
yeah, I'm asking your
like,
experience. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
and this is the thing, like I know for a fact that we can coach alongside the best of them.
Of course. Yeah.
And I personally take it like being at a HBCU, like I know how I recruit for the institution.
Hmm.
I know what the institution that I chose had an impact on my experience, what I see, how I see it.
Mhm.
And that's what I want people to understand. Like people choose HBCUs because that's
Mhm.
where they're going to go.
Mhm.
And that's not giving up anything from a coaching standpoint because, as you named, it's quite a few qualified coaches
Plenty.
across the board. And it's rich history in HBCU track and field. So I mean, I hold that high on my shoulder as far as coaching.
What I'm hearing you say, and I love it, you're you're not saying I'm stuck in HBCU.
Yeah,
I'm hearing you saying I choose HBCU from undergrad, grad,
yeah,
jobs. Like this is part of your like there are plenty of high school coaches. When I used to coach, I used to teach level ones, and I used to say the number one question I got from high school coaches in level ones was, "How do I coach college?" And I'm always like, "Maybe you don't. It's not maybe what you think it is. It's a great job, but I mean, it's not magic, and that's not utopia." And but there's plenty of high school coaches that would be like, I would never, I don't want to coach college. I love coaching high school. There are plenty of D3 coaches that I've met that are like, oh, I don't just aspire to be D1. I have the best life. I'm in the right place. JUCO coaches, man, why would I go to a 4 year? I've got it made. This is what I'm hearing you say. I'm not stuck HBCU. I choose HBCUs.
correct.
I love that.
Like, and the older I got, the more I realized like this is a space that I'm able to help people grow.
Mhm.
I mean, because I mean, not everyone is going to get the opportunity for the Power Four, and a
Mhm.
lot of times HBCUs are stepping stones. And I want anybody that has come and been an athlete, has worked with us, has been with us as an institution or any institution that I've been at, like to know like this is a place that you can learn and do everything that you think might not be
Yeah.
accessible here.
Yeah.
Like that's a
people
big
people who think the opposite of that are blind. I was another HBCU coach I had, good friend Chris McCoy, Arkansas Pine Bluff.
mhm.
I was just at Texas A&M for West Regions, and they just came in second behind A&M. I think ran 38, I don't know, what 49 or something like that. I literally walked up to the track right as the heat was started, and I texted him right after, and I was like, dude, like great job, see you in Oregon, like unbelievable. Like people who think that they're putting down HBCU are really just missing, what do they say, missing the forest for the trees or whatever. They're just there's some other things going on, I think, if they're putting down
Yeah,
HBCUs. I think of Coach Pierce, and I'm like, well, you would never pull him out of the Hampton, the 757. I mean, that guy just
yeah,
bleeds Virginia Beach area, Norfolk, that's that whole area. That's his home. It don't matter if I truly think if like whatever the biggest job in our coaching profession is open, I don't think he would take it because he'd have to leave. And he, he just loves that place, bleeds him. Uh, so I love
and,
hearing that. I appreciate you having that conversation with me,
and
bro.
and I'll say this: like looking at a lot of the coaching positions, the head coaches, like it's a lot of HBCU coaches that have been head coach at their schools for a long time. Like
Mm-hmm.
if you look at Alabama State, if you
Dude.
look at Morgan State, if you look
Mm-hmm.
at Hampton,
Mm-hmm.
Coppin State,
Mm-hmm.
like
Mm-hmm.
these coaches choose to be there
That's a
and they
great point.
love where they are.
That's a great point.
It's getting hard to see those like legacy
Yeah.
coaching
Yeah.
positions like in the track and field as a whole.
One of my favorite conversations out of all 300 that I've ever had is Richie Bean. I mean, I just love that dude. And my God, the guy needs to grow fingers to have more for his rings. It's unbelievable the legacy he has. So, talking about legacy and legends. So, you go to Morgan State.
Mhm.
What do you learn from I mean, come on, dude's been around forever. I feel like he's still going to be around forever. He's had so many amazing athletes and produced a lot of amazing teams. What do you learn? Do you let me ask it this way. When you go there, do you realize the kind of special treat you have. You've got a guy in front. You've had other great mentors around you, but Neville Hodge, just another step there. Did you realize the opportunity you had to learn from him, or did you were maybe a little blind to his history? Tell me about that.
Oh, I was very blind to his
Oh,
history. Like
okay.
like I said, when I got to Morgan, I quickly realized like, oh, he is him,
Yeah, yeah.
Morgan State.
Quick
Like,
learner. Good.
and my time in Baltimore, I'll tell anybody, it was tough.
Hmm.
Just because I've always been in the South for one. I've
Mm.
always been in rural areas. Like
Yeah,
I it was a big transition
sure.
from this environment as a
You
whole.
you probably paid more than 350 for rent.
Oh God, yes. And yeah, like it was tough.
Yeah,
I'll say that from a personal
I could see
standpoint.
that. Sure.
Um, but going to the Division I level, I saw how much more of a business it was.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't my favorite,
Mm-hmm.
but just seeing how the business side of things work. Now, one thing that I credit Coach Hodge for, as far as giving me insight, is how to work and create facilities. Like, because the facility that's there is phenomenal.
Mm-hmm.
And it was already phenomenal before they just had that upgrade.
Mm-hmm.
And Coach Hodge, he took me with him when he went to tour the Bynum
Oh yeah.
facility.
Mm-hmm.
And they were trying to get
Mm-hmm.
Morgan State. And Coach Hodge talked John Bynum into getting him, I want to say, 3 lanes, the length of our gym at the time, that would go under our uh, stands that roll out.
Oh yeah.
And like in my mind, I was like, this man, he thinks
Mm-hmm.
from a space of like, we can make use of this.
Right.
But from a logistics standpoint, with facilities and just what to look for when you are trying to create a facility, renovate a facility, build a facility, like he was very, very, very insightful on that.
Hmm. That's cool.
Working with him, that was the first time I worked with any type of meat management.
Hmm. Yeah.
That was that was an experience. I saw how much or how little coaching that you do when you are running a meet. um,
Yep.
but it was eye opening. I'll leave it at that.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, so you bring up a great point. We tend to think we tend to think about what we think about the school or the program when we think about other jobs, right? And so, when you talk about Morgan State and Neville Hodge, from the outside, you're like, oh man, who would not want to go there? Who would not want to learn under Coach Hodge and blah, blah, blah. But there are so many factors into the jobs you take: family, location, uh, uh, I almost said cost or price, but salary, those kind of things. I hear you. I hear it in your voice about struggling with Baltimore. So it doesn't sound, and spoiler alert, you're not there now, so we know you didn't stay. Uh, doesn't sound like, or it definitely was not a fit for you.
Right.
So you had to. So what do you do about it? I don't want to put words in your mouth. So what do you do about it?
So after that second year, it was so I went there in 2016, fall 2016. After that outdoor 2018 season,
Mhm. And
I
you're
was
and,
like,
and you're coaching distance.
I was coaching distance and helping out with jumps. Me and
Wow.
Coach.
So that's a continued theme.
Yeah,
That's cool. Okay, keep going. I just want to make sure
yeah.
where we're at there.
But after that 2018 outdoor season, I was let go.
Oh.
Yeah. So at that point in time, I struggled so bad while at Morgan State in Baltimore. Like I was really thinking, like, do I want to do this?
Oh, yeah. Inflection time.
And it was. a bit relieving and
Yeah, yeah.
at the time because I was aware in early June with the start of July being like my last little time there. So I had a little time and like I was making plans to go ahead and move on back to Georgia
All
and
right, all right.
get things rolling. And then old colleague, K. Marie Jones, she gave me a call. I didn't know I was getting interviewed at the time by her, but she was just asking me some insight. And
That's funny.
he was like, "Yeah, Wells, like, don't take your stuff to Georgia. Let's get you a storage facility here, a storage locker here in Winston-Salem, because I would like for you to be my assistant coach."
Wow.
Yeah. So that journey to move my stuff from Baltimore, Maryland, drive it down to North Carolina. Mind you, I'm uh borrowing my cousin's truck and trailer. So
Sure.
from Georgia. So
Yeah.
I
Oh
that was a
Lord.
that was a whole journey in itself. But yes, K. Marie Jones called and gave me the opportunity to come to Winston-Salem as her assistant coach.
Antonio, the best guest we have on this show, and I could say it's been 99% of them. They show up as their true, authentic self, meaning when good things happen, they talk about that, and when bad things happen. And you're reminding me of one of my favorite and greatest moments on the show. We had Karen Dennis, now retired. She was the head coach of the Ohio State University. I've told the story many times, but it's super important because now you're part of this story here. She was the head coach at UNLV, and she goes to Ohio State. And I ask what I think is a very softball question. It's like, so why'd you go from UNLV to Ohio State? It's like, duh, Mike. One of the biggest budget schools there is. She was from the Midwest, so it's closer to home. Blah 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 blah. So I was, it was a real softball question.
Mhm.
Of course, she went to Ohio State, and she goes, "Well, Mike, I was fired." And you're gaining the experience of being on the show. There's no pre-recorded questions. There's no prompts from me. Like you get to share your journey, how you want to share your journey. You did not have to say, right? You could have said, I went from Morgan State, and then my friend called me up from Winston-Salem, so I went there. I wouldn't have known the difference. I think I've said to you guys and gals that listen before, I don't do pre-research. I don't even read his bio page because it just allows me to stay curious. So I don't know when, why, how. I didn't call up any friends, common friends, but like, hey, so tell me about Antonio. So why did he leave that? I don't know any of this. So you get to tell it. I would never know. And I asked Karen, why? Like, why did you say that? Like, why? You could have just not mentioned that at all, and no one would know. And she goes, Mike. She goes, it's important. She goes, I believe it's important for young people, so like yourself, Antonio, that for them to know that bad things can happen in this profession. Some that you have no say so over, right? That's not your fault at all. But good things can continue to still happen. And so when you mentioned that, because I'm like, okay, well, wait, so he's about to tell me he's going to go to Winston-Salem as an assistant. Well, wait, he's the head coach now. So like I start putting the pieces together of like, oh, if that didn't happen at Morgan State, you're not where you are today. So first of all, take a step back. Thank you. Thank you for being so authentic. I think the majority of our audience is coaches, high school, college, and everything in between. And I think that is just Karen really instilled this into me. I think it is important for us to be vulnerable and say, hey, you know what? I got fired. I got let go. No one wants that. It's not a brag. Trust me. But good things can still happen. So I appreciate that very much. You've helped a lot of people who heard you share that story with that. So thank you so much for that. I appreciate that.
Yeah, like in that moment, man, like when I say I was struggling to I guess say find the motivation to even apply for jobs at that
Sure.
time. And I I mean, I'm gonna credit it to the full environment. Baltimore,
Yeah.
D1,
Yeah.
like that's a complete
Absolutely.
different beast. Like I
Absolutely.
tell anybody that's coming into coaching, and if they competed at the Division II, Division III NAIA junior college level and like have never competed in Division I, as a coach, you'll see things a lot different
Mhm.
as you go into it.
I agree with that.
Um, Again, it was very business minded.
Yeah, I think the biggest part of your story is about career development and career transitions that loosely I could say, the grass is not greener on the other side, meaning not every place that you think is gold for you. It's gold for
Right.
someone. Obviously, like a place like Morgan State, man, Neville Hodge has thrived, right? He's been there for, I don't know, 100 years. He's been there forever, continues to be doing a great job. So obviously Baltimore and Division I and HBCU and all that that's gold for him. Not for you and not for this person and this person and you know what I'm saying? And
Right.
you maybe you look at an Oregon, USC, Florida, Georgia, and you go, "Oh man, I would do so well. They'd be so great." And you get to one of those places, you're like, "Oh, wait a minute, I don't like living in the Pacific Northwest, or I don't like living in LA, or man, the SEC." By the way, my whole career, because I'm from the South, was to get to the SEC, and I got there, Mississippi State, and I love those guys and gals, former athletes that head coach there now, which is just makes me old. But I got to the SEC and I was like, "Oh, wait a minute." There's more to just coaching and recruiting. Like it's
Yeah.
political. It's political. There's some political. And I was like, I don't think I like this. And the others strive. There's plenty of coaches that strive in that. And I was like, maybe let me get away from coaching and see if this sport really brings me back. And you brought me back here to Gill, thank God. Um, so that I think is the real lesson there of like, I'm sure some people look at every Division One goes, oh, I just want to get to, it's, what this
Yep.
is. Oh, Antonio, we may have unlocked something here a little bit. We always talk about the D1 or bust mentality of athletes.
Hmm.
I think there might be a D1 or bust mentality amongst, well, just specifically here, track coaches.
Yeah. I
Ah,
so I know it's quite a few coaches, not just track and field, like any sport. Like
mm,
if you're trying to coach at the collegiate level, like we naturally think of Division I being the highest level, in which from a funding, from a resource standpoint, it is. But the glory behind coaching is being able to coach athletes,
mm,
regardless of what level you are at.
mm,
Like I mean, of course, we all want to be able to say we coached the Olympian national
mm,
champion,
mm,
but if we are in a place where we are completing the goals of the institution, completing our own personal goals of like just progress as a coach, that you're not going to be stuck on Division I, Division II, Division III.
right, right,
Like I see it a lot amongst peers and like even younger coaches like asking me like, "Hey man, so what I got to do to get to the Division I?"
mm-hmm,
Like just stay patient.
mm-hmm,
It's gonna come open.
It
Like
might, yeah. Well, it will definitely come open. It might not be
yeah,
available to you. Right,
like
right, 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 right.
all you have to do is really position yourself from a experience standpoint, from a just mindset standpoint,
Yeah,
and like you'll be in position to apply or even be considered.
yeah,
But you need to know that's what you really want to do.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, it's interesting. I'm like going through my head all these tweets I see about the D1 or bust mentality on athletes and
Mhm.
hey, there's a lot of great opportunities in D2, D3, NAI, JUCO, and all those, D1's opportunity, D2's opportunity, D3, those kind of things. And now I'm thinking like I might I like to like quote tweet some tweets, and when it's about athlete I'll change the word athlete to coach, like, hey, this all I think I'm gonna start doing that more and more about like, hey, the D1 buster mentality for athletes will have killed a lot of careers. I may quote tweet that and change athletes to that's so interesting. See, that is a theme we will explore in future episodes. I love that. Okay, Antonio, we're getting closer and closer on time. So we're at Winston-Salem. You're an assistant. Spoiler alert, we know you're the head coach. What I'd like, give me a quick sentence or two. How many years have you been at Winston-Salem? How many years were you the assistant? And how did you become the head coach?
Okay, so came to Winston-Salem in fall of 2018. I was assistant to K. Marie Jones. Through COVID, I want to say, yeah, 2021, fall 2021 is when I became head coach because Coach Jones actually took a position at Georgetown University.
Oh, wow, good for her. Yeah.
And with consideration, the athletic director um, interviewed,
Yeah.
and I was offered the position, and I've been here as head coach since December of 2021.
Okay, so my favorite question to ask first time head coaches. So you've been there, you said December 2021. So I'm not that smart. So you're on your you finished your fourth year as a head
Yeah.
coach. Okay, when you became the head coach, and you've had a lot of experience. Like now, I've had guys and gals who, in their second year of coaching, were head coaches, and so I'm like, "Whoa, you knew nothing. Like, what in the world were you doing being a head coach?" You've had some experience and seen a lot of other head coaches and how they do things and don't do things and stuff like that. What I'm always curious about, because this is a like D1 or bust, this is a little bit like that, head coach or bust. Like a lot of people
Right.
think they want to be head coaches, and it's like you don't
Yeah.
necessarily always want to do that either. There's a lot of freedom in being an assistant coach.
Yes.
Uh, what when you got the job, and I know you were as prepared as you were up to that point. That's the
Mhm.
best way of saying it. But you were not prepared because no one knows. Hopefully, you'd agree with this. No one knows what the actual job of the head coach until you sit in that chair. Okay.
Yes.
What was something? So I got two questions. The first one is, what was something that as you took the title of head coach, you thought was going to be hard? And you know your whole purview of head coach, recruiting, fundraising. Maybe you're on committees to hire a basketball coach. You do other. You're more involved in the athletic department, not just your program. Obviously, recruiting, coaching, hiring, firing staff. I mean, there's just budgeting,
Mhm.
equipment purchasing, scheduling. I mean, there's a list of 1,000 things you have to do as head coach. What was something that you thought like, ugh, this I might struggle. I'm gonna have to call my mentor, or so I'm gonna have to work with the AD on this, but it ended up being easier than you thought. You're like, you actually got into it and you're like, oh, well, wait a minute. I've never done it,
I,
but this I'm kind of cool with this.
I'm not gonna say easier, but like in the seat, in the position, I already knew time management was going to be the toughest thing.
Okay.
But understanding that I have a lot more control over said time.
Right, right.
So it became second nature. Like I'm not worried about what somebody else has to do. This is what the program needs. This is where we have to move. This is the time frame that we have to do it. So
Got it.
like getting everybody on that same page is the hardest part about the time
Yeah.
management. Like just making sure you're hitting your deadlines and understanding what you have to accomplish and get done within a certain time frame. Like it's all easily attainable because like you really control the time, the energy spent here and there.
Hmm.
That's probably the biggest thing that is not necessarily as hard as I thought it would be.
Yeah. You knew it'd be a challenge.
Yes.
And then you're like, oh, okay, but I understand this. And you got some more freedoms of like, oh, okay, well, I own my time a little bit more.
Right.
Not completely,
Yeah.
I don't know that anybody owns 100% of their time.
Right. Right.
Whether you're a spouse, you have a boss, we all have a boss. You've got a boss. There's other people that own your time so much. Okay. So my second question is actually the inverse. And you have been you've exhibited humbleness so well. So I feel like you're gonna have a good one here. Because this is a little bit of like ego, bad ego. Ego's not bad, bad ego's bad. So this is a little bit of like you have to admit like there's a little bit of bad ego there. What was something? It's the exact inverse of the question I just asked you. What was something that you thought, you know what? This is going to be easy. Scheduling, I know where I want to go to meets. Budgeting, I took an accounting 101 class back in the day, and it ended up being like, oh, snap, this is actually a little bit harder than that. That's a little bit more. I didn't understand that you had to do this part. What was something that you thought was going to be easy, and it actually found out as a little challenge, and you've had to work at it. Maybe it's easy now, but
The actual coaching of it all.
interesting.
Like, so working as an assistant coach, I mean, I had a smaller group to oversee.
Uh-huh.
As head coach for a program that's constantly ebbing and flowing, not necessarily having the most resources from a staff standpoint,
Right, right, right.
I have to make sure I'm able to see and give attention across the board. And
Interesting.
that was exhausting. Like, and even
Mhm.
further, like this school year, my former assistant, she stepped down. It wasn't anything bad. Like she stepped down to be a mother, be a
Mhm.
wife
Mhm.
at the late part of July, early August.
Mhm.
So from August, September,
Mhm.
October, December, January, February. Next, we hire our full-time assistant, Paula Salmon. And mind you, I do have a part-time assistant coach, Shauna Caballas. Like she's anesthesiologist here. So her time
Dang.
is not very free.
Mhm.
Like the amount of attention that I had to be able to give from a coaching standpoint
Mhm.
to all of these event areas really outside of throwing. And I still made sure I found time to make sure they know I care
Right.
because that's something that I've seen destroy programs when student athletes don't feel uh, motivated and wanted by head coaches. Like,
Mhm.
regardless of assistant coaches giving all the attention to their event areas, they still want to have that relationship with their head coaches.
Mhm. Mhm.
So, from cross country, middle distance, hurdles,
Yeah.
jumps, sprints, like that was everything that I had to step up.
That's
And
a That's a great point because we think of the coaching, I'm going to say as the easy part because, well, that's what we've done. We've been an assistant coach for X amount of years. Like, oh, I know how to, I can organize coaching. But then we forget, like, okay, well, when I became head coach, there are a bunch of other responsibilities that now come on top of that. Oh, and you're right. If a staff member leaves, well, you're the one who has to plug and play until you figure out the next staff. Yeah, that's a great point. We talked about this. It's quite common for us as coaches. I see it every minute of every hour at the convention. We'll phone a friend. We'll call a coach up, a mentor, a peer. Hey, I'm having this problem with this high jumper. Hey, I'm struggling with this 5K kid. What's a workout or it's quite common. As
mm-hmm.
a head coach, though, again, you have all these other hats. Can you give me an example of a time you called a mentor, a peer, for something that wasn't coaching? You're contemplating flying to this meet instead of driving, and you're like, boy, is it worth to spend that much money? Let me call Susie or Joe and see how they've cracked it, or how did they travel to the conference meet in Birmingham? I don't know if you guys are in Birmingham or not, but
Right.
yeah, like where did they stay? Is there a time where you had to like phone a friend for not on the track stuff for the all the millions of other things you've got to concern yourself with?
Like Coach Price, Tyree Price is probably the number one person I talk to as far
Absolutely.
as life as a track coach,
Hmm.
not necessarily just the coaching aspect of it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because I know how impactful my freshman year of college was, and he was the one that really set the tone as the head coach of the team.
Right.
Him and Coach Coop, like talking with them, uh, they give me insight as to how they handle a lot of these things
Hmm.
in this same seat because
Yeah.
I know Coach Price had to do it by himself, Coach Coop had to do it by himself,
Right.
Coach L. O'Kelly had to do it by herself. Like these are the people that I really look to,
Mhm.
especially in this seat.
Yeah.
So
I love that.
when it came to anything outside of coaching, like they still had that answer.
Yeah.
And
It's great because they continue to evolve, right? So like Tyreek personally, like he's seen how people at USC have done things coaching wise and now at TCU. And so he's like, I used to do it this way, but you know what? I saw coach so and so at this school and I really started moving towards that. Yeah, that is the interwoven web of coaching that we need to continue doing. We can't have you in isolation over here and these guys in isolation over there and D1 isolation over here and the Texas folks isolated high school over here. We've got to there's so many. It's much like coaching. You mentioned about or coaching movement. There are a lot of similarities in every event, from shot put to 10K. There are a lot of similarities. So if you know those basics, you're better off coaching any event. It's the same in coaching the profession. There are a lot of similarities in scheduling, budgeting, travel, recruiting, hiring, fire, evaluating staff, things like that. So we got to continue that communication. I love that. I love that. Okay. Antonio, so you're the head coach of Winston-Salem State. It's the end of the 2025 season. You had a great year. I saw you at Nationals. It's always a good year when the last time I see you is at Nationals. So that's always a good, goal. Make sure you see Mike at Nationals, and it's been a pretty good year. You strike me for sure as the kind of guy who's always got their eye towards the future. What's got you excited? And you get to define the future. It could be next year, it could be 5 years from now. What's got you excited sitting at the helm of the Winston-Salem State University? What are you guys, the Rams? Is that
We're the
right?
Rams.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
love it. Okay.
What I'm excited for is just the next season. We had a very strong sophomore class this year.
Mm-hmm.
So that's everybody coming back. We had 7 leave between graduation and just exhausted eligibility.
Mm-hmm.
And we are bringing 10 in, including an All-American from West Virginia State.
Nice.
So everything that we accomplished this year, including those 2 young ladies that made it to nationals,
Mm-hmm.
outdoor and indoor, and bringing somebody else in that was at that level,
Mm-hmm.
and knowing that we have girls that are at that level, they just have to get a little bit faster, a little bit
Mm-hmm.
stronger.
Mm-hmm.
Like, we have a strong team going into next year. I'm more excited about the team environment. Like, that's something that I truly love in this seat. That's something that I really tried to be intentional with when it came to stability, routine, because I know how
Mm-hmm.
instability can kind of destroy student athlete
Yep.
experience.
Yep. Yep.
And like, I want these student athletes to come in and enjoy their student athlete experience. And I always say there's no fun like winning. Uh, so if you are enjoying your time at Winston-Salem State as a student, I want you to enjoy it as an athlete and get everything, be the whole student. So I'm excited for the team as a whole next year. Cross country, indoor and outdoor.
I'm getting the feeling that the future is bright for the Rams.
Yeah, yeah. We've been working.
That's
Like,
good.
this next year will probably be the best that we've done in quite some time
I
since
love it.
Coach Inez Turner was here as
Oh
a regular.
my, is that right? She was, oh man, love her.
Yeah,
Golly.
yeah.
That's amazing. That's great history. Antonio, thank you so much. The most valuable thing that you can give me is your time, and a little easier for you because season is over. Division II ends a couple weeks earlier, which is also helpful for me who goes to all these meets. But so grateful for your time, and really, I just want to stress to you and to you guys and gals that are listening. Um, I got to say thank you for your trust, because again, you did not have to. You could have transitioned that differently, and you chose to go with the truth. And I think that story will bear out as important for the coaching profession. I'm willing to predict in the next year to 5 years, multiple people are going to come up to you and say, "Hey, man, I heard your story. I heard about that. That helped me when it happened to me. Like when it happened to me, I thought like, wait a minute, Antonio got through it. Oh, hold on now." This ain't the end of the world here. And maybe they go back and listen to Karen Dennis's story. I think maybe I always want to say Karen Smith, and it's Karen Dennis. So if I said Karen Smith earlier, I just thought about that.
No, you said
Karen.
Dennis.
Okay, good. I always, I don't know why I always go Smith. Karen Dennis. Maybe they go back and listen to Miss Karen Dennis's story. But those are the kind of stories, real world experience. These are real world things. These are, at the moment they happen, they are very devastating things that happen. No one wants to be fired. No one. No one, no one, no one. I'm working through with another friend right now that just got released, and we like certainty. We do not like uncertainty. And that's what
Right.
not having the job is uncertainty. So, so I'm just grateful for you for trusting me and trusting, this process here to share that story the authentic way. And again, I think it's going to bear out. It's going to be very important for the coaching profession. So I'm just really grateful for your time and grateful for that trust and authenticity, my friend.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for having me, man. I truly enjoyed these couple hours. And yeah, man, I look forward to seeing you in the near future.
Absolutely. Guys, thank you guys for being here. As we are halfway through season 6 and no plan, I'll let you guys know if we have plans on ending this. And right now, in fact, we're growing it, right? We're doing the Gill 1918 project, which, we want to continue to grow in the X's and O's and TED Talks of track and field podcast world side of there. I don't know if, again, you're listening to this probably in July, so I don't know if we've started the new announcement. We have a Gill 1918 project, but you look out for something pretty cool coming along there with another very positive track coach positive organization. I'm super excited about that. And we're going to continue to bring these stories, connections. That's the name of the podcast. We're going to continue bringing you these amazing men and women who choose to be track coaches and share their journeys because it's important. And that's how we're going to all move together and continue to move our sport up and continue to move the profession. That's the sport's great, and there's other people that are responsible for growing that. I'm here. Gill Athletics is here. We're going to grow the profession of coaching track and field. We're going to continue to pour into that and uplift and honor your journeys there. So thanks again for being here and listening to my friend Antonio Wells. And join us next week. We'll do it all over again. Thanks, guys.